You know, you just get on with it. I took that responsibility on, and it was almost like a manifestation over time, and just put it all into practice, put it into play on a daily basis, until it got to the point where I couldn't be myself anymore. I didn't know what was me and what wasn't. I didn't know how I was before, until I obviously had the mental breakdown. And then I finally realised that to try and live at that pace for such a long time is very unhealthy. With every big high, there's always an even bigger low for me. So this character will morph like a Power Ranger or an anime character. I'll morph into this guy, and then there's always massive lows afterwards, like big depressions and anxiety and everything after these big events.
Even now,
yeah. So after the Wembley fight, obviously it was the higher the highs, the lower the lows will always be for me. But I've figured out how to manage this over time. So what I like to do now is, I know it's coming after these big events. I'm going to be down. Most of the times I have suicidal thoughts, which is kind of crazy even to sit here and admit today that after these big events and these big successes, I'm like proper suicidal for a few days.
What do you mean by that? Like how seriously are these?
Just like want to die type of thing. But I know from experience now that this is going to move in a few days, a week. I always say to Paris, like, after these fights, just let me have a bit of space. Try not give me too much tasks to do. And I'll be back in a week. I'll be back to normal in a week or so.
And do you stay with the family during this week?
I stay with the family. And what I like to do is I like to get myself straight back to grassroots straight away. Like the day after the fight, I'll go out, have a few beers with the boys type of thing. But I'll be back doing my jobs. Like I'll be back doing the bins and tip runs. And people say, I saw you on Saturday, yesterday, fighting in London. Like, and I'm at the tip the next day on Sunday in Morecambe with loads of rubbish and stuff. And to get myself straight back to normal stuff, like back Monday morning, dropping the kids off and picking dog shit off the floor and stuff. It brings me back to normal. It brings me back to normal being who I am and who I have to be. A provider, a carer, that sort of person.
This is such a valuable conversation for us to be having, because people see the Gypsy King, right? Because he's the guy that's on the telly, he's the guy that has the fights, he's the guy in the press conferences. They very rarely see this, which is Tyson Fury, the man talking in this way. And people assume if you're successful, everything's easy. I really want you to, if you can, explain what you've learned about why your brain does this, because there will be people listening to this who have the same thing, but it scares the life out of them. They haven't learned to deal with it, and they may well be on the edge, and this may well be the conversation that makes the difference for them. What would you say to those people? They haven't yet found the clarity to learn to live with it.
You know, the first thing that I would say to anybody is, after experiencing all these things, like, you can't do it on your own. Communication is the key. Like, I was so long, I come from a big, tough family of all fighters, and nobody shows emotion, or everyone just like keeps everything to themselves, and everything's great and that sort of stuff. So I know what it's like not to have anybody to speak to about anything. And I know what it's like to be almost ashamed of saying, like, I'm severely unwell here and I need help. Because needing help for me has been, it's almost like, I don't need help from anything. I'm Tyson Fury. I fight my way out of anything. But the sooner I realised that I couldn't do it on my own, the sooner I got back well again. And I think admitting to yourself that you've got a problem, whether you've got an alcohol problem or a drug problem or whatever problem you may have, acceptance is the key. First, you can all see it. But if I don't accept that I've got a problem that needs working out, then I'll be in denial forever. But the sooner I can come to grips and admit to myself that I've got a problem, I can start to recover from it. And my advice to anyone suffering with any sort of mental health or any sort of issue is get straight to seek medical advice immediately. Because the sooner you go and do that, the sooner you figure shit out like that, then the sooner you can get back to what is normal for you. And I remember I've been suffering with these mental health problems from being a little boy. Like, all my life, I remember what I now know as anxiety, I didn't know back then when I was a kid.
What age?
Young. Like small enough to hide in a wardrobe. and be anxious inside a dark wardrobe. 5 years old, 6 years old, I'd have these feelings of like, I'm going to be left behind, but we wasn't going anywhere. I didn't understand it. I had no education on mental health, and up until a few years ago, like, it wasn't this big open widespread thing throughout the world, and there was no World Mental Health Days, and there wasn't no it's okay not to be okay and all that. It was like, no, it was all hush hush under the carpet stuff. And I didn't understand, like, all the way through my life I'd had this down one day, up the next, up and down, up and down, up and down, anxious, but didn't know what it was. And I suppose that I learnt how to sort of handle it with focusing on a certain goal. And the goal I had was an unreachable goal. And to give myself this unreachable goal gave me focus beyond the problems that I was going through on a daily basis. I'd always set myself to be heavyweight champion of the world. So there's 7 billion people in the world. So you're a newborn baby. What's the odds in becoming this impossible dream? Which is an impossible dream. You take a newborn baby today and say, right, whatever it is, right, I'm going to be the world heavyweight champion. It's very unlikely. It's an unreachable dream. And I gave myself that dream and focused on it that much. I didn't allow myself to get caught up with all the mental health stuff along the way, because I always had Klitschko on my mind. From being 14 years old, Klitschko was world heavyweight champion, or right up there, you know what I mean? So I was used to watching him on TV, and always my plan was always to beat Vladimir. And I always thought to myself, whoever beats Vladimir is going to become a legend in this game. Such a long reign. So I had a lot of trauma going on in my life from being that age to becoming champion. I was very close to my uncle Huey, who died. I was actually in a training camp when I was about to fight. I was about to go to a weigh-in, and yeah, we got the news that he died, and it was just like, oh my god. He'd
injured himself, hadn't he? Had an accident.
Yeah, he had an accident. He ended up getting a blood clot in his leg and died. He was a diabetic type 1 or 2, I can't remember, but he died, and at the same time he was in a coma. My wife was in the hospital, the women's hospital next door, have given birth to a dead child. So there was a lot of unhappiness going on in my life then. So it was, and I always put it always to the back of my mind, because I was thinking, I don't have time now to be upset about this. I need to be upset when I beat Klitschko.